What's up? Hey, man. I can't hear you. I think you're muted.
I know. I was prepared for the mute, but not the unmute.
How you doing, buddy?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. Did I scare you a little bit?
No. About asking you on here, you mean? Yeah, a little.
Yeah, you leaned back a little bit. I wasn't sure. What's up, everybody? It's been 5 or 6 weeks. Welcome. Welcome back to the best Coffee with Michael ever. The best of 2022. The best this week, guaranteed 100% of your money back.
It's true.
In this episode with Matt, you're not going to want to miss this. It's going to be awesome. Your mind is going to be blown. You're going to feel motivated. You're going to feel hungry at the end of this. Things you previously thought were impossible will suddenly seem possible. Things that have been holding you back won't anymore. Discouragement will lift. It's going to be magical, people. I'm telling you. From here on out, everything changes. Welcome to Coffee with Michael. This is going to be awesome. Matt here. Does everybody know Matt? How do we say your last name? What is the verdict on this? I thought it was Bahe, but I keep getting corrected when I say that. So what is it?
Bahe. It's Bahe, but there's some disagreement within the family, maybe a rift or something. But
then I am right.
Yeah,
I'm right. All right. So Matt Bahe here has been a favorite in the community for quite a while. I think you've been around for as long as I have, at least 2 or 3 years, I think. And I've interacted with you on like in the group, in Messenger. You've been on Coffee with Michael here before. The cool thing, though, is Matt had a big announcement last week. We should all congratulate Matt. He quit his job. He quit his job. So round of applause for Matt, everybody, in the comments. Let's see some little hand claps. Now, it's crazy how quickly he went from losing his job to like basically becoming untethered from reality. He forgot today was Friday. He's not even keeping track what day of the week it is. His nights and days are all mixed up. I had to tell him to kind of slick back his hair a little bit so he wasn't just a complete mess here for the call, but he made it. So props, Matt. Thank you for taking time out of your otherwise not very busy week to join us.
That's right.
You're living the dream, man.
I am. Yeah.
So
it's still
this
a bit surreal.
Yeah. How do you feel?
I still have a sense of panic. Like I thought I would be like stress-free, almost like, kind of like breaking through and like soaring above the atmosphere and all that. But I still kind of like clung on to that, like I should be doing something right now, kind of thing, like
the
checking
security
into work or something.
Yeah.
But I like
it, man.
Yeah.
Well, cool. So today Matt is going to join us. Wrong window. And he's going to tell us, this is going to be a get to know Matt session a little bit, right? We're going to get to know Matt, his origin story, how long he's been doing e-commerce online, selling ShineOn, what it took for him to actually quit his job and what all of that has been like. So I know, look, if it's your dream to be able to quit your job and do e-commerce full time, give me some money bags in the comments. Money bags in the comments. If it's your dream to be able to quit your job and sell e-commerce full time, money bags in the comments. And while you guys are doing that, here you go. A lot of Facebook users out there giving you, are those chickens or hands? Those are hands.
Chicken hands.
Every now and then the chickens find their way back into the chat here. Yeah. What's up, everybody? Facebook user, the ever faithful, wants to quit their job. Dave Mackey, Facebook user, Mauricio. Yeah, I mean, look, you're living the dream, man. You've made it to the top of the mountain. So this is going to be a really cool episode, dude. Thank you for joining us today, Matt.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, I've got some announcements. We'll get through them pretty quick. But before we get to the announcements, do you have a hot beverage?
I do.
All right. Now, look, it's been 5 weeks since we had one of these. And what has happened? Freaking, gas prices are super high.
True.
World leaders, I'm not trying to make light of this, getting assassinated. Climate change is off, here. It's off the charts. People are just starting to yell at each other. Families are arguing. It's bad. Things are really bad. So we need to fix that, everybody. We need to fix it. And what fixes it? The digital marketer's toast. Am I right? Raise up your
True.
glasses, mugs, bottles, and flasks. Join me now for the Digital Marketer's Toast. Here's to more conversions, more cash, cheap CPMs, and lower CACs, higher CTRs, much higher CVRs to enable ad accounts and big bank accounts, up sells, down sells, and cross sells, to winning products and repeat sales. To the thing that everybody knows, the riches are in the niches, but also your email flows. Are you ready? Drink up.
Salute.
There we go. There we go. You guys feeling it? You feeling it? Everything's getting better. Something just shifted in the universe. A dark cloud parted. Sun is shining down. People, that's right. There are people here in the chat. This happens every week. You're feeling tingles right now. Top of the head, bottom of the toes. You got these little tinglies that are telling you everything's going to be okay. If you felt them, let me know in the chat. Here we go, right here. Look at that. Gary's got some tinglies already. It's a phenomenon, folks. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. Okay, let's go. All right, do me a favor. If you like what we do here every single week, if you missed me while I was gone, missed the Coffee with Michaels, missed the Digital Marketer's Toast, like this post, heart the post, do whatever you want to the post. If you're on YouTube, make sure you like the YouTube channel, subscribe, hit the notification bell, do all that good stuff. That's what we want to see. And I think we've dropped quite a bit of love in the comments already, but let's do it. Oh, looky here. Looky here. Cha-ching while toasting. Love it. I told you, man. It is magical. It is magical. Nobody else has this. Zuck himself does not have the Digital Marketer's Toast. It's something
right.
we all share right here together. Together. All right. All right. Mauricio, it really shifted. I can see it. Yep. Looky here. Gary just got a ka-ching too. Yeah. 2 sales during the Digital Marketer's Toast. Am I right?
It works.
All right, let's go. Testimonials. So this one's kind of long. This one's from Appia. Congratulations, Appia. Appia dropped a little bit of value here. I'd encourage you to go look up this post because I'm probably not going to read it all. I'm just going to get to the first part here. It says, found out about ShineOn in December, studied and started in January, made my first sale the same day. Congrats. And experimented with how the company works. I had previous experience with drop shipping, but it would eventually fail each time I had a winner because of 3 things. Now, pay attention here. Bad product quality, bad shipping times from China, and Chinese drop shipping companies not caring about your business, right? So every time this person found a winner, every time Appia, I hope I'm saying your name right, found a winner, it failed because of poor product quality, crappy shipping times, or Chinese drop shippers not really caring about your business. Not caring about your business. ShineOn solves all of those. We have fulfillment centers in the United States and in Amsterdam. So you have fast shipping anywhere in the U.S. and Europe, like 2 to 7 business days tops on shipping. We do care about your business. We're here every single week trying to drop fire, giving you training, trying to tell you how to manage your ads and your people, reach more customers, build a brand, even customer service type stuff. We do it all. We bring you amazing people every week, like Maddie here, who have been able to do amazing things with ShineOn. So all of that stuff is solved with ShineOn. Anyway, Appia goes on here to talk about it. Also drop some value about a Google brand search. You're going to want to go check that out. Google brand search campaigns are they're really the cheapest way to get they are kind of the cheapest sales you're ever going to get. They're almost like retargeting ads on Facebook. It's one way to think about it. Anyway, go check out the post from Appia. Thank you so much for sharing. You got some swag coming your way. Next up is Green. Just thought I'd post here to say thanks for all the help and guidance from the team at ShineOn, which includes all the people in the group too. Small steps, but a few sales for the month, biggest learnings, and he dropped some value here. Go check out his post. I'm not going to read it all, but $484 in revenue, $316 in profit, and 8 total sales. Thank you, Green, for sharing your wins. Congratulations, buddy. Love seeing people succeed. Even the small successes are absolutely amazing. Thanks. You've got some swag coming your way. And then finally, Kiri, never thought I'd be so excited to see this. First sale, $44 in revenue, $25 in profit. Congratulations, Kiri. You've got some swag coming your way. If you too would like some swag, and we've got all kinds of cool stuff. I don't have my goodie bag out, but I should. We got backpacks. We have, they're not hydro flasks, but what are they? The, little thingies you drink out of. We got notebooks and cool t-shirts and everything you could possibly imagine. If you want some of that for free, Every single week, we randomly draw 2 to 5 posts from the group. We're looking for value posts, milestones, things like that. If you hit anything, your first sale, whatever, drop it in the group and you'll increase your chances to get some swag. And our swag is amazing. I'm wearing some right now. I've got some on the back of my laptop over here. Check this out. See what I mean? Look at that. We got the ShineOn Sugar Skull. Our swag is absolutely amazing. So if you want some, this is how you can get it. You can also go to shineonmerch.com and you can buy some, but that's the cheater's way of getting it. Okay, latest news. All right, we want to hear from you. Do me a favor here. Tammy, if you're watching, it'd be a great opportunity to paste this link in the chat. Do me a favor. Every quarter, we as a company have a goal to improve our seller NPS score. So NPS stands for Net Promoter Score. It's just a way to gauge customer satisfaction, right? We're trying to make sure that we're taking care of you in the way that you want to be taken care of, right? That's really the goal here. So we're trying to get feedback from you on how well we are doing. This is a great place where you can provide us, the entire company, feedback. And I promise you, this gets a ton of attention. We review this in our leadership meetings. We review it in our all hands internally in the company. The executive team meets and we discuss this very, very frequently because this is what we want to raise. We want to do this for you. So please do me a favor, go to surveymonkey.com. Let's see. Am I seeing the link in the, yeah, there we go. Somebody dropped it. That may be Tammy. I can't really tell. Anyway, do me a favor, hit this link, go take the survey, provide us honest feedback. That's all we're asking for, honest feedback. We're doing good, we're doing bad. We just want honesty, and then we're going to take that feedback. We're going to do things like improving our message cards, right? If you didn't see that video from last week, providing new products, increasing our ship times. Our ship time on assembly products right now is less than a day. I mean, there are a bunch of feedback we've gotten from you, and we take action. So please provide us some feedback here. All right. Next, we do offer coaching, coaching.shineon.com. If you're into that kind of thing, led by Kirsta here. Kirsta is a beast when it comes to his coaching. $2.7 million in about 30 days in last Q4. He's got some TikTok tips. This is from Washington Helps. He implemented one of the strategies and see he hit some scaling. Go check coaching.shineon.com if you want to join that. And then also, we partnered with Mario Minduni. Mario Minduni is like the master of scale. And he is doing like a done with you scaling type program for those in the ShineOn community. So if you think you have a winner and you're trying to learn how to scale it, go to ShineOnScalingWithMario.com, ShineOnScalingWithMario.com. You can partner with him and he'll help you take things to the next level. Don't forget, we offer free training every single week with our shots of espresso. You can find those in the group by simply going to the top, clicking featured, and you'll see all of our posts, announcements, shots of espresso, coffee with Michaels, all the good stuff. You never have to miss anything if you're there. Okay. I try to get through those pretty quick. I think I'm getting faster, but there's a lot of stuff there to get through every week. Maddie, how you doing?
Doing fantastic. How are you?
Pretty good, man. All right. So this is your first week with no job, right?
Yeah, I brought this shirt out just for it. Started from the bottom. Now
he's representing with some swag too.
I was looking forward to wearing it. So just so happened to be on Coffee with Michael. So
yeah, that's freaking awesome, man. So tell me about like how you quit. Did you kick in your boss's door and yell at him? Did you just not show up one day with a note? Was it dramatic?
No, I actually had a review that I wasn't particularly fond of. It was kind of like basically telling me that I capped out, at what I was doing. So they were talking about like what I wanted to do going forward. Do I want to take on more responsibility, which sounded like more work and a lot more time? Or am I happy with where I'm at? And I'm like, no, I don't want to take on more work there. And I'm not really happy where I'm at. So I started to kind of have some like midlife crisis moments in terms of like, is this what I want to do? And kind of revisiting why I started in accounting and financial analyst, in that role. Why I started it to begin with was because I wanted to learn like the language of business is kind of what I was going for. Fast forward, and I've been in it for 12 years. It just kind of time just flew by. And so it's like, no, that's not what I ultimately wanted to do. So I need to reevaluate what my next 10 years looks like. And so talk to my wife.
Good for you, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's a midlife crisis, which I used to think was like a bad thing. Like you're getting old, and now I'm like, hey, if you don't have one, you're probably just stuck in a rut. Like
Just the
crisis can be
alarm
a good
bells
thing.
going off. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, not to. I mean, I think 2020 and then 2021 have kind of inspired a lot of people to have those moments, even if they're not like 40. Just because you start to realize how fragile life is. You know, if you only have so much time, what do you want to really be doing? And so I talked to my wife, and we kind of like were hemming and hawing about it. Like, you know, at what point is it a good risk to take? And ultimately decided that this is the year. And so my boss actually was here, but then moved back to California. So I was still working remotely. So she had asked me to schedule a follow up meeting to talk about my review and to kind of see which path I was going to take, A or B. And I said, well, I just want to let you know that I'm going to be resigning formally. I'm going to send you my letter. And so that was kind of like dropped the bomb on him a little bit. I stayed 2 weeks because in my role, I was in a position where nobody else knew what I did. So I was indispensable in the sense that they couldn't just fire me really, but I couldn't be promoted because nobody wanted my job. And I couldn't take vacation because there's nobody there to do my job if I'm
You didn't
gone.
have a backup.
And so I basically spent 2 weeks solid training in my replacement. And they kind of got to see for the first time, which was my boss. She got to see for the first time, like what the job actually was, and was kind of like blown away by it, I think, a little bit. And then I'm out. And it
So
was
it
just
sounds like
before Independence Day weekend, so it really fit.
yeah, that's actually that's pretty cool,
Yeah.
actually. I mean, it sounded like you had a pretty good relationship with your boss. I was being kind of funny anyway about it. So you were there for 12 years. You decided to quit. Now, so like, let me ask you. I mean, what's it feel like? I've got to imagine it's equal parts kind of fear and trepidation, and also like it's got to be thrilling at the same time.
It is. So like I guess to go back, I'm always been like type A more so. Like I'm very like extrovert, want to talk to people. At times I want to be by myself, but I like to talk to people. And so going into the accounting role was like strictly just to learn business. And then I was going to come out because I basically read 4 hour work week when it first came out. And I'm like, yeah, I want to run my own gig. You know, like he calls them muses. I wanted to run my own music, you know, business and everything. But then met my wife, life happened, everything fast forwarded. But my personality never really quite fit, you know, in terms of like they had us do like personality tests. And then like for the whole accounting department, depending on where you sat, you had to go to one of the 4 corners. And I was the only accountant in the entire department that was like in the salespeople group because that's just the way I tested. And I'm like looking at that thinking, yeah, I don't know if this job's like all that
Yeah,
perfect for my
there's
like
your
current
sign.
role.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that in combination with you're capped out, I'm like, online, I'm never capped out, you know. So it was kind of like now I feel like the fake net has been removed, which I mean, we all know we have at will employment. Someone could just let you go, which I always thought was funny that like they can let you could go in tomorrow and they'll say you're done, but if you quit, you got to give them 2 weeks. It's like that seems not
Yeah,
quite
it doesn't go
equitable.
both ways. I mean,
Um,
that's true.
yeah. And so basically, yeah, that was kind of like it that those kind of like culminated into one like event. And now I kind of feel like, okay, you always said that you have this level of success working 3 hours a day at night. What could I do if I worked 8 or 10 hours a day? And now I'm like, well, crap, now you have it. So it's kind of exciting the fact that like my goals just went up 10x, but it's also kind of like, all right, now we can see if you were BSing or if you were, you know, if
Pressure
you were telling the truth.
is so I'm just trying to get a feel for how much pressure you took on here. Are you guys a single income household?
No, my
Okay.
wife works full time. She carries health insurance too. She's actually very successful at what she does. She's a buyer, and so she likes to do that kind of stuff. I mean, she likes to buy things. I could show you my Amazon statement to prove it. She loves to buy things, and so we ended up basically being able to utilize that because she's like, I like where I'm at. I got a good company. It's a good time for us to take a risk as a household. The problem that I had too, like I have people ask me the question a lot, like, you know, you did $1 million in this store since like November, and now I have 2 more stores, right? So why did you wait so long to quit? You know, and it's basically because obviously $1 million's not net, it's gross. So figure like 20-30% margin on that. And I actually have a decent paying job. so like it really, like the carrot that they gave me is good enough to like just keep me from chasing my real dream until all of a sudden it's not, right? So like it's like having to like get over that hurdle. Like it's almost a benefit if you got laid off and had nothing else to do, or if you had a low paying job, like then it's kind of easy to replace. But once you hit like a higher bracket, it takes a little bit more like
Dude, I know
proof.
exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I started my first business in 2014, and literally, it's like my full time jobs are always like just a little bit ahead of where my businesses had put me, basically until I had joined ShineOn.
Yeah.
So I totally feel you on that. So here's a question, because I'd imagine a lot of people in the audience are kind of thinking about this, especially if they're in a similar place where they're like at a decision point. Do I go? Do I stay? That kind of thing. How are you feeling about the economy and where things are going here? Because it's been a little turbulent the last probably 3 months.
Yeah, I'm a little blessed in the sense that right now, anyway. So who knows? I mean, when I saw that, I panicked like for like a moment. But like, there's a lot of jobs doing what I was doing, which kind of also played into my decision. Like, I have a headhunter that's got me my last 3 jobs. I could get a job tomorrow if I wanted one. So like, I mean, that could always change, right? That's a risk I'm taking. But for the most part, I feel pretty confident in that. And so, I mean, we sell stuff that people buy. I mean, it's like it's not like huge purchases, but it's like decent enough cart value to make it worth our while, and the margins are great. So it's like, as long as you really only have to sell in a couple holidays and make a full-time income. Like even now I'm selling
True.
on some of my smaller stores, like one of my newest store. Like, what do you have to sell to make like 10,000 a month? Like maybe 10 or 12 units a day to make 10K a month profit. Like, I mean, that's pretty doable for anybody, even like in the off season. And it just kind of shows you like how much opportunity is out there, and how small your micro business, your muse business, kind of going back to the Tim Ferriss thing, is like your muse business only has to be relatively small compared to like a Facebook or a Google to make you a nice income that's even better than like a higher paying job. And then so if you grow that, all of a sudden you can do, I mean,
Totally,
if you can do
man.
10,000, you can copy that out to do 20, 30, 40, 100,000 a month.
Well, and I mean, especially when you get into a place where you can start to develop true expertise in it. Like, I'm talking about, you actually have the time now to really focus and dial in your conversion rate. You have time now to really get your funnels all figured out, like your post-purchase funnels and all that, to drive up AOV. You have time now to make sure you're using your email list effectively. And you can even, you can survey customers and start to get a feel for like what they like, what they don't like, how you can improve things. Like when you're doing this as a side gig, it's much more difficult to do that. Now, I will tell you that because I did this as a side gig for a long time. What I liked about the side gig, though, was it was kind of clarifying not having very much time to do the business, because all it allowed me to focus on were the essentials.
Yeah.
And like when you have more time, you fill it. You will fill it with stuff, and it's not always the most important things to be focused on. And you can kind of get lost in all the detail if you're not careful. But when you have like 2 or 3 hours before you got to get to your full-time job, it's a clarifying force on all that.
That's kind of what I'm dealing with now. When you were asking how this week's going, is like, before I was forced to focus on the biggest dominoes, that if I push those over, none of the other small ones would even matter. And now I'm like, oh, you have a ton more time to not just focus on these big dominoes. So what are the next ones to focus on? And I'm struggling with that in a lot of ways, just to make sure that I'm being as effective as I can and not just doing busy work. But to your point, also, one of the things that I neglected was hiring. Like, I've had one guy that does customer service for all 3 stores, and he's a boss. Like, he's been doing it for 3 years now. But I don't want to have him just, I want him, make it more like each business is its own thing. And so I want to focus a lot on hiring out and making each business self-reliant. And then that'll effectively take me out of the equation for a lot of the things and just make them more reliant. But in the past, coming home from work, giving like the employer my like best and then giving myself the rest I don't feel like training. I feel like I got to run these ads. Everything I can do to get these ads up by midnight so I can go to bed and get 4 hours of sleep, So it's a different paradigm for sure.
Yeah, man. I feel you on that for sure. Um, Also, I love that. I mean, you were hustling. Um, and like really anybody listening, if you have a full-time job, this it is kind of what it takes. Don't fall for I tell people all the time, I'm like, don't fall for like the ads you see on Facebook where it's like some guy trying to sell you a course and there's like, Lamborghinis in the background and he's hanging out at a pool at a mansion and parties and it's flickering around. Don't fall for any of that, man. Most of if you want to earn like a good income, it is still work, right?
Mhm.
It's just it beats digging ditches and it beats working for a boss. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's still work. And the coolest part, in my opinion, about e-commerce is it disconnects time from money, right? That's the coolest thing about it. Is like you can create something and then sell that thing many, many, many times over, right? And the biggest time investment was in creating it in the first place, right? And running your ad. So there's huge advantages to moving into this space, but it's still work. And it would be remiss if I didn't say that. It's not just a cakewalk. So I want to get to kind of your origin story a little bit, but real quick before we do. So this is your first week without a job. Congrats, by the way.
Thank you.
How many hours this week have you worked so far?
I've kind of maintained that I'm going to do at least 8 to 10. I've probably done closer to 12 because I do evenings now. My wife would like me to not work evenings, but it's a hard habit to kick. And in the first week's probably not the time to do it. But I've committed to basically doing at least 8 hours from now until Q4. Q4 usually gets weird because, as you know, every hour you sleep is time wasted.
Yeah.
So really, I got like 3 months to
December.
really kind of gauge everything in before craziness starts.
Yeah, I hear you. In month of December, it's like all bets are off. Every waking hour, it's about maximizing profit.
I know. I can hear Michael's voice in my ear. If you want to be successful, maybe you want to sleep a little less.
Yeah, well, dude, the thing, I say this on my Coffee with Michael's, and I kind of say it joking, but for me, I really feel this. I feel like I can hear the cha-ching sounds in the background when I'm like I'm laying in bed trying to sleep, and I just hear this cha-ching, 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 and I'm like, people are getting sales right now, right now. It's like I could get some of that. It starts to drive me a little crazy.
Yeah.
All right, so let's rewind the clock a little bit.
Yeah.
So how long have you been doing digital marketing, e-commerce, that kind of thing?
Yeah. So I basically started in 2010, back when like niche sites were really popular, exact match domains, which I still cling on to a ton of that I pay $10 a month each, just in case they ever come back in fashion again. It's kind of like my Bitcoin bomb that I'm holding on and not taking the loss. But that's kind of where I started, like basically doing SEO, ranking sites. I had a lot of background in SEO and a lot of experience with it early on. And, obviously, people that have dealt with it know it takes a long time. It's not like our business where you can like put up a $30 ad and start making sales. It's basically growing this asset that sits out there forever.
Especially now.
Yeah, it takes 6 months, even a year to get up to speed. So I was doing a lot of that and got up to several $1,000s a month, which was like supplemental income, which is kind of what I wanted when I started out. Was like, I just want extra money to invest in things, to take trips, to buy little niceties that don't come out of our earned income budget. That's kind of what I was focused on having, and that worked. Then, of course, everybody knows we have the pandas, the penguins, and the updates. So you can put all this work into building quality sites. Google updates, slap. You go from $3,000 a month to like $10. Like it's almost laughable how fast it can happen. I survived a lot of them. I got hit by a couple that would like take me down to like a couple $100 from like several thousand on a site. And then, they'd recover because I was always pretty good. I did get a little bit black hat at times, to be honest. Like I complicated it a lot. I was building my own private blog networks. I was using, scraper tools and article spinners and all this kind of stuff.
I really don't think too many people are actually white hat.
That's why I did it. Actually, it was kind of like everybody else is cheating. So, but and I actually remember because I was in a group with a well-known guru now that does NFTs, but he was doing SEO, And I met someone in there that was talking about Facebook. This is like 2014. And I'm like, well, I like the thought of me controlling the faucet. You know, I can turn it off and on. I don't have to sit there and like beg Google for like, you know, please love me and give me money kind of thing. And so I like the idea. So I put $50 in and didn't do anything, didn't do any research either about what I should do. I just kind of like, this picture looks cool, I'll put it up here. And I'm like, Facebook is such a waste of time. I even went back in the thread and was like, what a waste of time. It's gambling. You know, I'm going to go back and do my SEO. So I did that. This is like 14. And then that's right around the time when name t-shirts became really popular. Like,
yeah, dude, if you caught the wave,
thing, you wouldn't understand.
It was like the gold rush back then, man. It was like anything worked, and the CPMs were ridiculous.
Yeah,
they were so cheap.
Yeah, it was, and Facebook was kinder back then too. Like they didn't just whack you for no reason. They actually, well, they started to around this time, but before that they hadn't. And so I got in like just late of the golden age because they had banned scraping user IDs, so you could get the names at that point. But Facebook ads were still early on, and so I basically started selling on a platform t-shirts with the brand that I still own now, my first brand. I did $1 million my first, well, I guess before that. Okay. So in 15, I did $1 million for that year with my main brand, selling t-shirts, one shirt. I remember it was like June of 15.
So dude, hang on. What were the margins back then? Because I got to imagine the ad costs were next to nothing.
Yeah, they were pretty good. Like I was making, I don't even remember. I couldn't venture a guess, but like my cost per purchases were like, one of my best one ever was like $5 cost per purchases, not retargeting, straight up cold traffic.
That was like your cold Kim. Was it during a holiday or anything?
What's that?
Was it during a holiday or anything?
No, it was in October.
That's ridiculous, man.
Yeah.
I was selling a product in peak pandemic. It was like a March, April, Mayish of 2020. And I was getting $7 cost per purchase, but it was kind of a fluke, right? It was like pandemic, it was a unicorn year, but like I've never seen anything kind of approach that before or since. That's incredible, man. $5.
I know. I look back at my old ad accounts and my old records because I'm a big like spreadsheet nerd and I have all that. I'm just like, yeah, things have definitely changed. People aren't lying when they say about that. But you know, like I said, there was always issues too, as far as like, you know, shirt sizing and printing and things like that. We always had to deal with. But like in 1 year, I went from selling in June. I remember I was up north in the woods, literally in a tree with my laptop, because back then you had to tip campaigns. You had to sell like 10 before they'd even print them. So I'm like, oh, it tipped. And then like the next day I was out there in that same tree, and it was my first campaign that I ever had 100 sales on one campaign. And I'm like, this is my new thing. This is what I'm going to do. And so I started.
Hang on, man. Why were you in a tree, dude? You can't just say that and then like roll on and not explain it.
Well, it's a Minnesota thing. No, I was in a part of the area way up north where they only have one cell service that really works, and it's this off-brand. They don't have any of like the main carriers, and I couldn't get access to the cell tower, so I had to like go up high up in this tree to get my own cell service to work.
Dude, that's a hustle right there. I love that. I love that.
Right.
Hang on. There is a lesson in this. There is a lesson in this for all these people out here watching this that want to go full time. That is what it takes, man. That right there is what it takes. I used to tell people I'd wake up at 5, work for like 3 hours before I had to get to work. Done my lunch breaks. I'd drive to the top of the parking garage, use my phone as a hotspot. Climbing a tree, though, is a whole new level, right? A whole new level. You have to want it so bad, you're willing to climb a freaking tree in the middle of a Minnesota winter to run your campaigns.
There's a TikTok video there somewhere, just me and my little like coat in the winter up there holding.
Dude, I want to see like a wallpaper. I've got this vision in my head of you in a tree holding a laptop on a wallpaper here.
My parents thought I was weird because my whole family was there, so they all thought I was weird. The squirrels in the tree thought I was weird, but I knew I was on a mission from God.
Yeah, but man, yeah, you were running your ads. That's awesome, dude. Okay, go ahead, continue.
I was gonna say, so like that was my first 100-unit like campaign. So like over the course of a couple of weeks, I did 100 sales, but by that October, I had my first 1,000-unit day. So it was like blew up as far as like scale. And then right in August of that year is when I started my first drop shipping store. This is back when drop shipping wasn't cool, so it was still underground. And I blew that up by the end of the year because everybody knows about ship times and things like that. And it got really just, I started feeling bad about some of the questionable trademark stuff I was
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah. I
And
hear
so
you on
then
that.
by then the like the main brand that started with one shirt had grown to like 3 other shirts that were really like huge sellers. And so that's when it hit the $1 million for the year from like March to December. So I focused on that because I felt like it was a brand play. I could probably have my own, everything at like some point, kind of like Kiss does, market everything under this brand. So I left the drop shipping behind and basically stuck to that brand. And then I did that for, I can't remember, I think it was up until 2019. I had a really huge run on mugs. Actually, I sold coffee mugs. That was like insane. I think I did like 5,000 a day or something like that at my peak, or maybe it was 3,000.
Wow.
I'll have to look. It was for mugs. It was huge. And I was doing okay. Or actually, no, my margin was great. I was 30% net profit on that, which I was getting sub, $8, $7
But you
sales.
also have 5,000 freaking customers to service
That's the
a
point. I also
day.
have 1 billion customers to service.
So hang on though.
Broken
So
mugs.
at this point in time, you excuse me, you kind of have the print on demand fundamentals down. It sounds like. I mean, you kind of have an idea of what creates a winning product, whether that's on a shirt or a mug or something else.
Yeah.
And I assume that you kind of had to learn that trial by fire back then, because I don't think there was tons of education out there.
No, there was stuff on YouTube. There was some like early shirt people that I still am in contact with that shared ideas, which is kind of where I started to see me by myself, like nobody in my house wants to talk to me about Facebook ads and shirts. Like I need to find a group of people that are like-minded and are going to like help each other. And that's kind of where I first really saw the power of a community and people that understood the language you were speaking and could like say, hey, I tweaked this. Like this is going to like date me, but this is back when people started putting the red border around ads. So
Yeah, I
like
remember that.
some guys like, oh, it increased it like doubled like my like click-through rate. So I started doing that. And like there's those types of things that you'd find little tweaks that would all of a sudden add dollars to your pocket.
Things that give you an edge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I really started to see that then. So there was small groups of us that were working together underground kind of, but yeah.
That's awesome. So you said you got us all the way to 2019 selling 5,000 mugs a day or whatever.
Yeah. And this is where I get hazy. But you came out with your ecom course, what was it?
Profit formula, ecom profit formula.
I signed up for that. And this is actually funny too. So I was when I started working with you or in that course, I took that course and just saw like when I saw like your unit count, I started thinking, what if my mugs had been jewelry? Like how much money I'd be like a millionaire. So I started to like think like I'm costs are rising. I need to get a better margin product first off.
So it was just for anybody out there that didn't catch that. What he's saying is my AOVs when it's selling jewelry were like 3 times what he was getting selling mugs. Right. So what he was saying was like I had low unit counts, but high revenue.
Yeah.
Essentially. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
And then I started to be honest with you, I was amazed by it. I remember some of your trainings just blew me away. And then I just kind of proceeded to do the same thing I'd always done, like going back, maybe tried a few of them. And I had a little bit of success, actually. I think, I made a couple thousand and I was doing okay. And then I ended up taking like 2 more courses over the next year. So that must have been like the end of the year. And I took 2 more courses. I don't know. Can I say them? Is it okay if I share them?
I don't care. Yeah.
So Ronnie McKenzie, I took his course. And
what was that one called?
It was Jewelry Juggernaut at the time, I think.
Yeah. We actually have I think if you go to jugger.shineon.com, you can get that one. Go ahead.
And Ronnie is great mindset. Like, so up until I really got involved with him, like I really didn't kind of thought mindset was something people told you about. So you didn't realize you were losing money, but which is true and false because like I realized like so much of of my failure was based in my limiting like beliefs, and just my mindset was off. And as soon as I started like really engaging with his content, and he gave me like that recipe in terms of like, because like before then I felt like, okay, I only have 3 hours a day to work on my business. If I go work out for an hour, I'm wasting an hour. But like that wasn't true at all. Like as soon as I used an hour of the 3 to work out, those 2 hours that I had left were super productive because I was lit up, on fire, focused, had tons of ideas when I, like when I would go run that I would get and then put into my designs. So like it was almost like the whole thing about Abraham Lincoln. I forgot what the actual quote was, but he said like if he had 8 hours to chop down a tree, he'd spend like 6 sharpening his axe, kind of something like that.
Yeah.
So basically being effective and not just efficient, and so that's kind of what I took away from him big time, that and being organized. He was really good about organizing his campaign structure. And I still use a version of that today because it's easy. If you say that I'm going to launch 3 campaigns and I'm going to be a millionaire, like first off, probably no, it could happen, but probably no. And then you don't really need to have any kind of system to track the stuff. But if you're going to launch hundreds and hundreds of design tests, you need to have some kind of system to make sure you're not launching the same thing every 3.
You need to be able to track results. You have to be able to track the results too, because you need to know where you're getting like positive feedback in the data, because the data will tell you where to go if you can just follow it. But you got to get it in front of you so you can do that.
Yeah. And so that was I took a lot of that from him. And then that, I think it was just shortly. So actually, right after that, I had my first $10,000 month in jewelry. This is right around the time where like everything, I had rewatched what you did over and over and over, like your live scaling. I was watching that all the time. So like, it was my TV. Like that's what I had for entertainment, was watching this stuff. And at that time I focused 100% on ShineOn. I said, if I'm going to make this work, I have shiny object syndrome. My name is Matt and I have shiny object syndrome.
Can I jump in there? I want to share a little metaphor. So you just shared the thing about Abraham Lincoln cutting down a tree. And he said if he had 8 hours to do it, he'd spend 7 hours sharpening his axe, right? There's kind of another analogy that I've heard that I always think about when it comes to this kind of thing. So someone was talking about a log that they were trying to cut for firewood, and they've got an axe, and they start hitting the log, and they're trying to get it to break, and they're hitting it in a bunch of different places, right, to break this log. Yeah. That to me is the equivalent of shiny object syndrome, right? Yeah. It's like you've got this goal, you want to attain it, right? But it's like you're not focused. You're all over the place. And anybody here that knows anything about chopping logs, you can't freaking break a log in two by hitting in every place. But you got to hit it in the same place over and over and over and over again. Eventually, even with a dull axe, eventually that log will split, right? Yeah. That is the power of focus. And that's why that shiny object syndrome at some point becomes a detriment and just keeps you from your goals. Anyway, go ahead.
I was going to say, just to add to what you were saying, compounding that ineffectiveness is the fact that if you're working full time, you only have 3 hours. So if you're splitting up a half hour in 6 different things, you're not going to get anything off the ground. There's no critical mass there.
Totally.
So I knew I had to be effective because I work full time. I have a young daughter. I need to like be there for her. So it's like, I need to be effective. And so I need to just don't buy the BS about rich people have X amount of income, because if you look into the data, they started with 1. And once they got really good at 1, they branched out into all the other streams of incomes. But they mastered one thing first. And so that's kind of what I was looking into and digging into. And I actually unsubscribed from every single email list that wasn't serving that purpose for me. And I just did ShineOn. And then I joined ShineOn Coaching. Before it was ShineOn Coaching, it was the Triumph Group with Kirsta. Yep. And Kirsta taught me a ton about phrase building because he's the master. I remember he was in the mastermind with you too. And I remember like he was first starting out and he gave us this like graduation design and was like, hey, whoever wants to run it, go ahead. And like nobody knew who like Kirsta was. And so nobody like did. And then he goes on to do like 6 figures with it. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm never going to not listen to Kirsta again.
He's a genius. In this space.
But that was early, so we didn't know, right? He was still blossoming too.
Yeah, fair enough. The thing with Kirsta, though, just to give him some props real quick, that guy, he grabbed onto this thing. He just didn't let it go until it had succumbed to him. I mean, that guy did not start out hitting home runs. he was in loss for quite a while.
Yeah.
And like I said, he just did not let go of this freaking thing. And
Yeah.
he wrestled it down to the ground until it submitted, and now he's cursed us. And
Yep.
we're all fanboys. So
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and so I was, very active in the group. I went to all the calls, learned a ton from him. And then, but like, I still was like, just feeling like I was missing. Like, I feel like I had like all this information and all these pieces I just couldn't really put together. And so, like, basically in the fall, I signed up for Mario's mastermind. So I was doing both. So I had already taken the courses, plus I was in, the ShineOn coaching, and I was doing Mario's.
where are we? Are we in 2021 now? Fall of 21?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Sorry. It does get,
You're good.
everybody's like 2020 year feels like a Groundhog Day. So it just like blurs over. So yeah, coming up into there. And I work with both of them quite a bit. And Mario and I had a lot of conversations because I think he kind of saw my like background, but like I never could get a jewelry thing to really pop. I did a little bit of graduation stuff that did okay. I'd make a few thousand, but like I'm seeing people post these screenshots and I'm just like, what am I doing wrong? And Mario just basically told me like I have to get my testing schedule. He got all these things that I needed to really hone in on. Focus on pulling those levers you can control. You can't control how many sales you get because that's up to the market.
Right.
You can control how many designs you're testing every day or every week. Those are the levers you focus on.
Yeah, I call them
the outcome takes care of itself if you do these things, kind of thing.
It's the difference between lead and lag measures. It's like the lead measures are the things you can actively control. They're the levers that you can pull. The lag measure is the thing you're trying to influence. The analogy I always use to explain to people is like weight loss, right? It's like the number on the scale is the lag measure, right? The lead measure, the thing you can control is like how many calories you're consuming, how much time you're spending at the gym, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Steps.
Give us some examples of some things Mario told you needed to focus
on. So he helped me come up with a very like strict criteria for determining a winner, and also like almost a flow of like, okay, if it doesn't succeed, kill it. If it has some components that might indicate it could be a potential winner, what do I do then? Like he gave me basically like this very simple but effective flow chart as like terms of my testing structure. And I hammered that thing. I went from in October to November, I did 137 tests. Most of that was like second week of November on.
Good for you.
So I was hammering it. And I got to this point in November where I had this design that had a few hundred sales. And I was talking to Mario about it. And I was like, this is where I'm still thinking like, well, just to go back on what else he taught me, he was also very good about, I came from a t-shirt background, mug background, funny stuff. It's not easy to turn off the funny bone and go like sentimental. So he really helped me like embrace the fact that stop trying to make what worked for t-shirts and mugs work in jewelry if you want the big payout, because it's going to have broad appeal and you're going to have to test to find them. But when you find it, it's going to be a huge thing, not just like a few thousand, but like, $1 million seller. So really to embrace that and get almost like take away all my bad habits that I'd come up with. But they're not bad. They just served a certain market, I guess, versus being a little tweak for this market. So anyway, I was showing him this campaign. I had several hundred sales on it. And he's like, well, what's your profit loss? He's very big on profit loss. You got to know your numbers. And I'm like, well, I'm down about $1,200. It's like, why are you still running it? I'm like, well, some days it has good sales. And I think it might turn around if it could just string together a couple of good days. I go, maybe it's just Facebook being Facebook. He's like, no. Kill it. He's like, do you have anything else that has promise? It's like, yeah, I have this other test that I think is doing okay. Like it's pretty much like at a 3 ROAS, but it's really small. He's like, well, do some phrase variation building on that one. And I'm like, all right. So I turned off the one that I was in love with because it was a really cool design. And
can I jump in quickly?
Yeah.
This is because this shows Mario's wisdom when it comes to scaling, right?
Yeah.
Mario knows that you cannot mistake a winner.
Right.
Like there will be, trust me, when you hit a winner, you will freaking know it. You won't be sitting there wondering if it's a winner. and you won't be sitting there trying to make it a winner with clever like ad methods and things like that. Winning products take you for a ride, right?
Yeah.
And most of the time when you have a winning product, it feels like you are trying to stay caught up with it, right? It's like you are trying to be caught up with it and trying to optimize it as best you can, but it is leading the way. You are just along for the ride.
Yep. Yeah.
So go ahead.
And I was going to say also, so going back to like, I'm an accountant, but I'm like a recovering accountant. Like that's not I'm like a musician background, like artsy fartsy, did a lot of art history and stuff. So like, that's kind of where like my two worlds clash in jewelry cards perfectly because, or like even like marketing, because I get the design component, but I'm also very numbers by education, not by nature. So like my two like skill sets really basically like combine well for this market. But anyway, I did like a 5 or a 7 variation test on that one, and ended up that a couple didn't do anything. I killed them. One of them had no sale. Actually, none of them had sales the first day. The second day, number 137 did 3 sales, and the next day it did 5.
This was the variation on the other one that had a few sales, right?
Yeah. And it wasn't the variation I liked. Like to this day, I'm not really proud to say it's mine. I don't know that I buy it for my like significant other. It was in the love niche, but it went on to do 500,000 basically by itself in Q4, a little over 500,000. The only reason why it didn't do more is because right when we got up to the scaling point, I realized that my ad account was capped at 10K in spend. So within the span of like 2 weeks, he saw me go from like, I want to give up, I don't know if I can do this, to be like, can you believe they limited my ad account to 10K?
That's awesome.
So then by the time I got it raised, you had to like negotiate with Facebook and say, you basically contact them and say, I've hit it for the last 2 days, I want to raise it. And then they say, well, how much do you want? And I'm like, well, how much can I get? And so by the time I got it raised, we had passed the deadline. We were like right a day before the cutoff for Christmas sales. So I never really got to see what it could have done, but I did get like just under a 30K day with that particular design. So
always this year.
I know I'm coming for that 6-figure day this year, man. Hell or high water, I'm getting it. So yeah. I'm not going to wait until then to put all the pieces in place for that.
That's awesome, man.
So that's my first like huge winner. It's gone on to do close to $1 million now in that particular.
Have you had any trouble with your ad accounts or anything?
No, not since I missed 2020. Was that the election year? I got my big brand that I had run since 2015, never had an issue. I got my personal ad account or my personal access restricted right after Thanksgiving, and I didn't get it back till January. So I had no backup.
You got it back.
I got it back, but I completely missed out on Christmas in Q4. So for 2021, that's why I took so much coaching. I'm like, this year I'm not going to miss out. I'm going to be prepared. I'm going to plant seeds now that grow because I missed out and I'm pissed about it, but there's nothing I can do. I'm just going to have to just make sure that I'm prepared. And I made sure I had backup admins on my accounts. So if I personally got locked, because I could still see my ads running, I just couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Backup admins.
We'll still spend your money.
Oh, yeah. And you don't want to like cancel the credit card because all of a sudden Facebook is like dead beat. Let's disable this whole thing, So and it was making money, but I could have scaled it, but I just had them running small budget the whole time. So yeah, and then after that, obviously that was like the thing that took that particular brand to like where it's got a mature pixel now, and now I can, to be honest with you, testing gets easier. I don't know how much of it is that it's probably equal parts that I've done the reps to know what a good card is.
Yeah.
I'm not like Kirsta where it takes like 3 or 5, whatever, but like my batting average is way up compared to what it was. Part of it's experience and part of it is now that particular ad account is matured. So it knows what to do.
When you get to the place where you can feel it, that's when you kind of know, when you look at the data and you're not even, it's like mentally you see the numbers but you're not processing it mentally anymore. It's like you can look at the numbers and you feel whether or not it's got potential or not, and you can move on. When
Yep.
your intuition it starts to click in like that, that's when you know you've put in the reps.
Yeah, and then once you see it, I mean, I've actually done it. Now, I've had 2 more decent sized winners since then, so like 3 total that have basically been like the biggest contributors to all that revenue and why I'm here now, quitting my job. But like I saw those and I reacted quicker. Like I could like identify the ones that had potential faster and make iterations, and like it just seemed to be like once you, it's almost like the sword and the stone, right? Like once you pull it out once, you can pull it out again because you know what it takes to do it. And like you've been there before. And so obviously at first it was kind of like, oh crap, did I get lucky? You know, am I going to be able to like do it again? And so like I've hit decent size, and Valentine's Day, all the major events I've had a decent winner. I think except one. I can't remember which one. Was it Father's Day? I had one where I just couldn't trigger it, and then I had some personal things that took me aside. But it's like, you know, once you do it 3 times and you're starting to, you know, scale it, then you're like, okay, maybe I have a skill and it's not just dumb luck.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So that brings you to basically current. So you had this track record behind you of success. Clearly, your confidence level has been built. You definitely have a system now, which sounds like it's in large part to your past experience, but also like all the courses and some of the coaching along the way. That ties into a big part of, like, I always tell people, you know, you need to make sure you invest in yourself. Take the courses, take the coaching. I've done it. I drink my own Kool-Aid here. They're cheat codes is what they are. You get to learn from somebody else's experience how to do this, and you don't have to make the same mistakes that they made. So they're totally worth it. So anyway,
yeah, I mean, just to piggyback on that, I didn't have like, when we had like decent income, but not a ton of money, you know, to like put into everything. And so I don't necessarily think everybody should do this, but this is what I did. So I was contributing like a ton to my 401k. And I just said, okay, I'm going to leave whatever they're matching. I'm going to still contribute that. But everything else that I was going to put in my 401k, it's going to my business now. I am going to invest that money in testing and building this business. I'm not going to like rely on something I have no control of over in Wall Street. I'm going to invest in myself, which is kind of like killing a sacred cow if you adhere to like strict financial advice from the financial planners. Don't kill the 401k. But it's like, if you look at the returns now that I've gotten on that money, that like whatever, a few $100s a month that I was going to just put in to test, like there's not any kind of investment that would have given me that kind of return, which you say is betting on yourself, both for coaching and for testing.
I feel like as soon as I entered the entrepreneurial space, I feel like the entire world inverted a little bit on stuff. I just mean like people say buy houses, you know, they say that house is a good investment. I've had a house now for 2 years. I'm telling you, this is the worst investment I ever made. Yes, I have a roof over my head and I don't have to sleep in the rain and all that. I'm like with you on that. I have a mailbox, all that stuff. But it's like, this thing just falls apart around me. Like I have to mow the yard. I have to watch for like wood rot in places. Like I have to pay people to come out here and like fix things sometimes. It's like the house is a depreciating asset. It's just the market kind of ticks up. But the thing is, it barely ticks up at all. But if you take a business, you can double, quadruple a business almost every year for like the first 5 years of a business, right? It's like you can get the returns you can maximize out of a business are so much more than practically any other investment I've ever heard of. Unless you get like lucky with like Bitcoin or something.
Yeah, like when you're scaling, or even if you're not, but you're putting in like, you know, say you're spending $10,000 a day, you know, it's not out of the question to get a 20% net or even more on your money. Where else can you put $10,000 and make 20% that day?
Yeah, a day. That's the key word there. We're not talking about a year. We're talking about a day.
Yeah.
Like
that's when I realized I made the right choice. Like,
I
put $1 in, I get $1.20 back. I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah. So, all right. So what have you done with, like, in what ways has your life changed since you hit success? Obviously you've quit the job, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
What else? Have you done anything? Have you spent the money on anything, trips or?
No, well, obviously we don't have to talk about necessarily, but I started coaching because I had so many people kind of just being on Coffee with Michael last time and stuff reach out to me. And I only have still so many hours up until this week to dedicate to people, to helping people. So I've actually started doing a bit of coaching for Mario, which I enjoy a lot. I started to realize how much I knew. Cause like, you know, when you know something, you kind of like take it for granted, like everybody knows it. But really when you start working with people, you realize, holy crap, I've learned something in 10 years. Which has been really eye-opening. It also tests you to make sure, yeah, you know it, but can you teach it to somebody else? Because that's the true definition of knowing something, is being able to teach somebody.
Yes.
So I've done that, and then back to my like 2019 when I had that big mug run. This might kind of fly in the face of your real estate thing, but not directly. I bought a couple of lots that were up on a lake, just like 2 hours north of our house, and then I was planning on building a cabin on it, but then the pandemic happened, and lumber is so expensive that it like doubled the price of what I'd paid to build the cabin, even being logs or whatever. And so I kind of put it on hold. But then in the process now, that land has doubled what I paid for it, more than doubled what I paid for it. And then now with like this like ShineOn money, I've actually started, now that the pandemic's kind of over here, I started developing that, like put a driveway in, got a shed.
Good for you, man.
I got a boat lift and dock going in tomorrow, actually. So yeah, it's kind of like the Minnesota Lambo. You get a lake place.
Do you own the lake?
What's
too?
that?
Do you own the water too?
No, it's actually on a bay that's connected to one of the major lakes in the area that has a big resort on it. It's got 3 golf courses on it, so it's a nice area.
Good for you, man. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
So I feel like if everything goes to hell in the handbasket, I can go up there, and we actually just put a 35-foot camper on it. So if everything goes to hell in a handbasket down here, I'm going up there.
Dude, that's amazing, man. That's amazing, dude. I think my dream would be a travel van, right? Starlinked up and just like bouncing around to campsites and boondocking and stuff like that. I'd love that. So
yeah,
you've got me excited just thinking about that. That's awesome.
Sure. Yeah. And it actually has great internet up there. I saw the neighbor getting charter installed. I'm like, we got broadband up here?
You don't have to climb trees anymore.
No more trees for me. I'm getting the direct connect. So that's next on my list too, is getting it wired for internet. Good
for you, man. So are you like to the trailer?
Yeah.
So hang on, is it like a camping trailer? Or is it like a trailer?
It's a tow behind, but it's like 35 feet. So it's huge. You'd have to get like a big truck,
camping type trailer. It's like a
RV. It's more of like a put it where it is, unless you have like an F-250 or something like that.
Yeah.
And with gas being like it is, you probably don't want to tow it a lot of places.
So you have power hookup and all that stuff?
Yeah, it's got the pop outs on it, so it's big inside. It's got microwave, TV, everything in it. Outdoor bar with fridge, kitchen.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Good for you. Yeah. That's incredible, man. I'm just so stoked to hear about that.
Yeah, and my goal is to go up there and start hearing some ka-chings in the forest, right?
Dude, I'm envious. That's amazing, man. Good for you.
Thanks.
All right, so what now? Like, what's the future look like?
Oh, so after I had the success of the one store, I started 2 more. So I started that with the intention of expanding out. E-com for me is like not the end all be all. It's like like I said, going back to Tim Ferriss, 4-hour work week, it's my muse. It's my cash flow infusion machine. And so I have plans for that money outside of e-commerce. Obviously, I figured if the best, you and I already talked about the returns you can get. I felt like, well, if I can get these kind of returns, I should just, triple what I'm doing, add 2 more stores, build them up, get them to like $1 million, rate, like $1 million run rate. And then people will buy them from you. You can just sell them off and get a cash infusion, take that cash, invest in real estate, whatever else you want to, other revenue producing, assets, and then just kind of like rinse and repeat. And then if you have one that you want to take, maybe you want to not sell it. Maybe your goal is to grow it to like a multi-million-dollar brand. I have no doubt you can do that if that's your path as well. So I have one that's kind of where I want to go. I do want to take it to like a multi-million-dollar brand. I already have a trademark and everything on it, and I really want to brand a ton of stuff. And the other 2 I'm basically going to sell them at some point once I get them to where they need to be financially. And then I'll just keep on rinse and repeat. And taking the money and putting it probably in real estate, to be honest with you. The neighbor has a spot that I kind of want to buy, because then I'll have that whole side of the bay. But then, I mean, people up there are renting our Airbnb in their places for $500 a night. So, I mean, that kind of takes care of your mortgage if you rent it out for a weekend.
Well, that's different, right? To me, that's just another business.
Yeah.
You'll
right.
learn about this house thing. Trust me.
Oh, I've had many houses. Actually, that's the only way I paid off my student loans was I bought a house and it went up to like double what it was.
Look, for everybody listening here, I probably wouldn't listen to me, because literally everybody I talk to about this thinks I'm wrong. I'm just kind of bullheaded on the house
well,
thing.
no, I think it all comes down to, like, even like when people say, who should I coach with? First, you have to know yourself. So, like, know what you want first. And then that's going to dictate where you should go and who you should learn from, or what the path is for you as far as home ownership. Like, it's not the same. It's not one size fits all. It's what are your goals? What do you want to do? And so that's kind of, I think, being self-aware and knowing yourself, even though like Gary Vaynerchuk, self-aware, he makes it all kind of weird, but like in a very real sense, like that's kind of what happened to me. Like I knew, like, I want to sell jewelry successfully. Okay, well, I'm not going to learn from somebody that's selling drop shipping stuff. I'm going to learn from someone who's selling jewelry. So like, and I'm going to do the e-com model. So like identifying that path for yourself first makes everything else easier.
So I totally agree with you there. So now you're like, you've quit your job, you've got these 3 stores. You're also your coach. Like, explain the coaching with Mario, like, that you're doing. What's that? Yeah.
So I basically take one call a week of his, or maybe 2 sometimes, and I work with people on, test how they can test their stores. Basically doing what Mario did for me, giving them guidance on, should I kill it? Should I, go to phase 2 testing? Should I, scale it? Those types of things. And then I also do scaling for people that hit winners, because obviously I've scaled several campaigns now. And so it is scary. Like, as you know, even like testing at mass. So like taking your budgets from like, dirty 30 method, doing 60 a day, to all of a sudden doing a couple hundred to 500, like to 1,000, like that's like one set of skills and one comfort level. But when you start doing like, so give you an example, when I was scaling for Q4, I had 90 ad sets with $400 budgets on each of them.
No,
so like setting that up the night before and not like losing your mind because of the potential spend that's out there, it takes a level of like experience and comfort to be able to do that. And so like we kind of like help people do that as well. You already mentioned that Mario offers it as a service, and I think a lot of that is just being comfortable with it, and knowing that, yeah, you have a high chance. This is what you could lose. This is what you could make. And obviously the plus side is always huge, and we always work to keep the loss minimum during the scaling methods. And so like, I think that's going back to coaching. It was like, I didn't know if I could do it. Like, I didn't know if I could scale. I even watched you scale back in the day, and I'm like, I don't know if I can go to that level. But like having a coach that's been there, that's done the recipe, that knows it's that it works, believes in you before you believe in yourself, and gives you that certainty before you have it from experience.
They have confidence.
Right.
They're like, hey, everything's under control. We got this.
Yep.
And, if you go back and watch those videos, I think I launched, I remember one time I had like $250,000 in spend in a day that would run.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, like, if the power goes down, like I didn't have a ton of money in the bank account at that time. I was like, this is like bankruptcy level debt in my mind, right? I'm like, so I had this whole plan. I'm like, okay, if the power goes down, I'm going to give it like 10 minutes. If it's not back up, I'm going to drive to the library. I had this whole plan for how I was going to get control of these assets, to turn them off, because I didn't know what to do. And I didn't have a coach that was showing me how to do that stuff. I was trying to figure it out on my own. But anyway, that's the advantage of having guys like you, Mario, other coaches around who have been there and can kind of help you get the edge up. I probably would have paid for a coach going back. I didn't know who was out there. I was just I felt like I was forging my own way.
You kind of were. You were kind of like the godfather for a lot of the people that are bigger in the space now and that have had success, to be honest. And so you were kind of like making the trail. But the other part of that is like having that certainty like certainty will lead you to take big action. So it's like, what would you do now if you knew 100% you're going to succeed eventually? Like you'd do 10 times as much work as you would if you kind of thought,
Right.
yeah, maybe I might be successful. But if you knew it, you take huge action. So like
Yeah,
that's the other part of it, is like being comfortable taking the big moves, knowing that the ad budget that you're putting out there is boomerang money. It's going to go find friends and come back, circle around.
dude, I actually I love that. I think this is kind of a good place to kind of wrap up to. Here's what I love about it. It's there's a faith message in there, honestly, about like seeing the result before it's there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like believing that when you step out onto it's like that Indiana Jones moment. And I can't remember which film it is, where he steps out on the cliff, and it's like he can't see the walkway or anything, and then his foot lands, right? Like
only in the footsteps of the lion's leap or whatever will he prove his worth. That guy.
It's the there is no spoon moment in the Matrix, right? It's like seeing the result, seeing it like in 3D, right? Like knowing that it's real and it's there for you before you take the action. That's a whole nother level of mindset there. And that's incredible. I mean, seriously, asking yourself if you knew for a fact that you were going to succeed, how would that change the actions you're taking and the decisions you're making? That shines a light, man. For sure.
Yeah, I agree.
So the other thing is the climb the tree thing has been resonating with me this entire conversation, because like everybody's got a tree. That was the thing that stuck out for me, is I'm like, everybody's got that tree that like is the obstacle, you know, it's that thing that like it's there and it's in front of them. And it's the thing they had. It's the hurdle. It's the mountain that they got to get over, right, to achieve their goal, right. And for you, just interestingly enough, in that little time frame, it was a tree that you climbed with a laptop so you could get cell signal to run a campaign. So for everybody out there, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say, like, what is your tree? Right? Yeah. What is your tree? And I think the way I want to end today's Coffee with Michaels, I want to encourage you, climb the tree, right? Identify the tree and then go climb the tree. Climb the tree. And I think we got some really cool merch, ShineOn merch ideas here. I'm seeing some cool stuff in my mind, but seriously, what is your tree? Figure it out and go climb the tree. I think that's a good takeaway for everybody. Before I move to kind of wrap this up, do you have any parting words here for anybody listening?
I just say, like, when you have that mission and purpose, like I did, like it wasn't a question of, am I going to climb the tree? Am I going to look silly? I didn't care. My mission and purpose was to be successful. So like my why like trumped anyhow, you know, I was just going to do it. And so I think when you get really clear on that mission and purpose, you know, those obstacles are not even going to matter, because you've already seen your way through them. So I think that's really important, just to get really clear on what that is for you. Maybe it's just getting a nice side income. Maybe it's quitting your job. Whatever it is for you, define it for yourself, and then just make that like your solitary focus.
Yeah, that's amazing. I couldn't agree more, man. Thanks for coming on, dude. I really appreciate it. I'm going to move to kind of wrap this up. Feel free to hang out. Do me a favor, if you like Coffee with Michael, if you like what we brought you here, if anything Matt has said today resonates with you, if you want to quit your job, right, do me a favor, tell your friends about ShineOn, tell your family about ShineOn, tell the ecom people you hang out with about ShineOn. If you do, right, if you have 100 sales and you've got your special referral link up here, if you share this with anybody and they sign up through the referral link and they make a sale, you get 75 cents a pop. So pretty cool way you can earn money just by sharing the love. Do me a favor. We got some new social media accounts here led by Tammy, and she's got all kinds of creative ideas. They're actually like pretty entertaining channels now. So you're going to want to go check these out. Check out our Facebook page. This is not our group. This is our Facebook page, ShineOn HQ. Make sure you're watching our Instagram at ShineOn. Then we have a TikTok now, ShineOn Official. You can also start following us on Twitter at Real ShineOn. So I'm not going to go over this today, but go check those out. Tammy's had some really clever ideas. There was one she made on 4th of July, running around in like a white wig, there was kind of a throwback to the times. There was another one she did that was a play on the show Stranger Things. It's pretty fun stuff. They're entertaining, so go check those out. If you enjoyed today, really appreciate you being here. Go figure out what your tree is and climb it. Climb your tree. That is the takeaway today. Climb your tree. Until next time, everybody. Happy selling. Thanks for coming on, Matt.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Take care.